Hey, Hustle Bro, how you been, man?
Bro, hustling is life. I wake up every day at 4 a.m., I cold plunge, then I drink a green tea with some pink Himalayan sea salt, and then I go to the gym and I masturbate to Gary Vee and Alex Hormozi videos, sometimes one at a time, sometimes back to back, and then I drink my protein shake. Oh, shit, that's a little bit extra milky today.
That's fucking disgusting. But don't you ever feel like there's more to life than just hustling?
Bro, the point of life is to send cold DMs and fill your calendar. What are you, lazy?
What's up, guys? It's Frankie here. And in this video, I want to show you guys an alternative to this whole hustle grind mentality that's being pushed in our space. By the way, I got nothing against Gary Vee or Alex Hormozi. I actually like both of them. But for a lot of those guys, they're speaking to the crowd of business owners that have never taken step one. And so they need to tell them to get off their ass and work. For a lot of you guys that are actually like in the trenches and doing this is actually really bad advice. And it'll only leave you as a burnt out owner working 60, 80 hours a week, 7 days a week, constantly tethered to your phone. And I want to show you guys an alternative in this video where you can actually have fun. You can go to the beach. Work is getting done, but you're not the one doing it. And frankly, your business operates kind of like a boring factory where money comes in predictably, clients get happy predictably. And for the most part, the machine runs without you. So I want to show you guys how to get there. And there's a level of thinking that you need to achieve to do this. And we'll talk about exactly what that is in just a minute. For those of you guys who don't know me already, my name is Frankie Finn. I wrote this best-selling book, which you can find on Amazon. Started and ran 3 of my own agencies, up to 100 plus clients, and I've helped thousands of people around the world to live this more beach, less laptop stuff. Let's get into Leverage 101, the no grinding way to success. So I don't know about the rest of you guys, but like I kind of thought the whole point of like being successful is to actually have a life, like where you can actually, see your family, and if you want to sit on your ass and watch Netflix. I've been playing the Nintendo Switch last few days. The Echoes of Wisdom, a new Zelda game came out. So I want to show you guys, and there are 3 levels of thinking in this game, by the way, and I've been at all 3, and I want to show you kind of like the different contrasts because it requires you to think and act like a wealthy person. So the obvious way most people operate their business without really knowing it is actually bringing poor and middle class values. And we want to bring wealthy values to our business and operate like this. So an example of this, by the way, of like real efficiency, like 100 years ago, like motherfuckers had to farm. Like if somebody wanted to eat, you had to grow that shit, you had to cultivate it. Sometimes you had to like figure out ways to store it over winter and things like that. And nowadays, it's evolved to things like we have like fast food, things that are ready. And now there's even like, depending on where you are in the world, things like Uber Eats where it can come right to your door. And we celebrate those leaps in efficiency in the real world. And yet poor and middle class values in business will tell you that's a bad idea. You got to work hard. You got to earn it. You got to go to school. You got to work your way up the corporate ladder. I work hard for my money, worn as a badge of honor. And I want you guys to be more the Uber Eats where you celebrate your efficiency. So when I was poor, this is me personally, and I'll show you how these values in just a second apply directly to your agency. So you get real freedom, telemel. Freedom! Only the greatest movie ever made. So when I was poor, I was mostly just trying to make enough money, like a low hourly wage. And I was paid hourly, and I was just trying to survive to get drunk on the weekend. Very, very short-term thinking, by the way, when I was poor. When I was middle class, I had a little bit longer-term thinking. I could think in like 1 to 3 month timelines. And for the most part, I was looking for a good salary. I wanted to be paid. But irrespective of results, I was after a salary, I was after benefits, and I was hoping that if I rose the corporate ladder, good things would eventually happen to me. And again, it's a long, grindy journey, but at least you're paid more than in hourly. When you are wealthy, you are paid for what you own and control, and that is it. And I want to show you guys in a second how this applies to your agency, but like the richest guy I know in my hometown of Windsor, Ontario, Canada, which is close enough to Detroit to hear the gunshots, but still Canadian enough that nobody's shooting at you. And the richest guy I know growing up, he owned 7 apartment buildings and a golf course. And the reason he was wealthy is because he owned 7 apartment buildings and a golf course, right? He rented those things out continuously and repeatedly. So let's take a real world problem in your agency and we'll say sales. Everybody needs sales to get going. And this could represent your sales, like the need for sales in your business, or it could also represent the sales you generate for clients, right? Like this, we have a dual fold business where you're not only trying to increase your own sales, but you're simultaneously trying to do it for the people you serve, right? So when you're poor and you go to approach this sales problem, almost always your mind is going to jump to like a low value kind of solution. Now, most people in our space operate here in the middle class world. And the way this looks is they say like, I want $3K a month for SEO, right? Well, that's being paid irrespective of results. You're probably going to put in a lot of work. Like in a middle class person, you're kind of paid to solve problems and do effort. I spent a time as an engineer for the Ford Motor Company. Sucked. It was soul-sucking hell, but I did it way back in like 2006 or 2005, somewhere around there. And I got paid a salary, and my job was to show up and figure out how to make shit work. And they paid me to solve custom problems. Now, when you're wealthy, you want to own and control things. So the question we have is, what can we own and control that can solve this problem? Now, there's a thing that a lot of people in our space know me for. I'm known as the 5-minute loom close guy. But I'll tell you, why did we decide to solve our sales problem with a video? And the answer is simple, is I wanted my assets, the things I owned and controlled, my digital assets, to do the heavy lifting. And what we created with this, by the way, is now digital me is 24/7, 365 days a year prospecting, never takes a day off. And because it's on places like YouTube, like there's almost no server downtime. So another way you could potentially solve that problem is with what I would call automation. That's like automation, not auto like a car, right? Like, so say, for example, we know that if we send these 14 emails in a row to a client, chances are they're probably going to, like a percentage of them anyway, are going to want to buy our stuff. That's a repeatable, predictable process. That becomes boring. Your sales process will become boring if you find out these 14 emails do it. Another way you can do this is with people, right? So if you compare this, like just for a second, backtracking, if we go back to poor and middle class, a lot of people do this by hustle. They go to B&I meetings, or they're prospecting, they're cold messaging people one at a time themselves, or they're jumping on sales calls. And the problem with this is real you has finite time, right? Like you can't grind and hustle forever. In fact, as you reach upper echelons of success, the less you grind, the less you hustle, the more success you have, the more you create systems and processes that solve those problems, the better off you're going to generally be. So here's another example, is what I would call like a referral partner. Maybe we can get somebody to actually send sales to us. This is what I actually did in my first agency. We did mostly plastic surgery SEO, but we were a white label agency. Other people, other web designers went and sold websites and said, hey, are you interested in getting SEO? And they sold our packages, and probably about 3 to 5 times a week, I would sign a new client, and I wouldn't have to do anything. In fact, it just showed up predictably day after day after day. And so whatever problem you're faced with in your business, and generally there's only so many buckets, like we're really only trying to solve a small handful of problems. Either you're trying to get leads, you're trying to get sales, you're trying to onboard, and the same is true for your clients, by the way. You're trying to fulfill, you're trying to hire and build a team. And chances are, like, your problem is when, or your client's problem is in one of those places. And so the key with this is you want to think about, how can I create a systematic tool, system, or process that predictably solves this problem as a process keyword, not as a one-time that requires me to be the custom solver, right? Like, if I'm the only good salesperson in my company, then the company's only going to grow as fast as I can make one-on-one pitches. And yet, if I separate myself and I have a 24/700 or a 24/7 365 video closing, that never takes a day off. And in fact, 100 people could watch that presentation at the same time, or 10,000. It makes no difference from a delivery point of view. And then if we're doing it, say, through automations, like I know people, for example, who have built very sophisticated systems in the old Go high level, and they send emails and they send cold calls and follow-ups and voice drops, and they build out these systems. And yeah, it's a lot of work to set that system up. But predictably, they're going to have sales show up, and it's not going to depend on them actually pushing the button and sending it. Or if you think about bringing in people, and people, by the way, are probably the least, like, factory-like of all the pieces, because people have good days and bad days and stuff. So I almost always try and default to, can we get technology to do the heavy lifting here? But what happens is if you default to people, you're going to find out that they have goods and bad days. But nonetheless, people is a better solution to doing it. Like if you hire a salesperson, then all of a sudden you don't have to do the sales, right? Like you can find a good person to step in and do you. Or we mentioned, like, can we have a referral partner? So I wanted to show you guys this because I don't think enough people really understand this level of thinking. And I think the vast majority of agency owners really actually bring middle-class values. Like the middle-class value, like the harder you work for it, the more you grind for it, the more difficult and arduous and pain in the ass the process is, the more you really earn that living. But actually, most of the really like 100K and up people, like when I say 100K, I mean like per month. So we're talking 7 figures a year. People who have like very good businesses, like typically work 10 hours a week or less. Now their team and their systems and their processes are working round the clock. But they themselves as the owner put in about 10 hours of actual work. And if they do more than that, almost always they're neglecting these things, right? They're trying to put themselves in it, just like going to a BNI meeting. How many BNI meetings can you go to solve your sales problem, right? Compared to how often can a video prospect? All day long, right? And especially if you take it another level and like you're driving paid ads to it, where people are seeing that video all the time. In fact, your video will perfectly prospect all the time around the clock. So I want to show you guys a much better alternative in this video to the no grinding way of success, because I think you guys can do it in a way with a whole lot more woo. Tell them, Rick. Woo, 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 woo. Woo! So we always want to be introducing assets to solve problems and not you, the owner, and your ability. Because if you're solving custom problems for a salary, what happens is you're middle class and you own. The biggest downside to being middle class is you put in all this work for a company, you do all this effort, and at the end of the day, what do you own or control? And the answer is nothing, right? If you're actually building a system, like say, for example, you build an automated process, like let's say, for example, you do this for a client and you create a pay-per-click ad that predictably gets their phone to ring. Well, how many times could you resell that same pay-per-click ad in landing page combination, right? That asset can be resold. And as Sam Carlson from UpHex likes to say, we want to build it once and sell it 1,000 times. And if you take this mentality, you'll build more complex, more sophisticated solutions that one time you build it, but the second time and the third time and the fourth time and the fifth time and the sixth time you sell it, it's copy and paste precision. That's the magic of digital assets. Is like, I mentioned, the person who built the Go High Level system. It's probably a lot of work to build that outreach system, but now it's just like fire up the contacts and it'll just start sending messages to people automatically and start getting sales opportunities. So hope that's super helpful to you guys, because it's a game changer in terms of the amount of energy you put in relative to the amount of money that like gets output from your system. Hey guys, if you like this video, you may also like my best-selling book here, Beyond the Agency Box. It is all about scaling a digital marketing agency while eliminating meetings and phone calls. We actually sell our stuff phoneless. We don't have any client meetings, and we also hire our team entirely without meeting phone calls, which allows us to, actually kind of live a life. I've laid out the entire blueprint and everything you need to know, getting clients, onboarding, setting expectations, scaling, building a team, you name it. It has been a bestseller on Amazon now for over 5 straight years, but now you can get it even cheaper than you can get it on Amazon. So I can't tell you the exact price because it may change when this video is released, but there should be a link to it below, either in the description of the video or as well as a pinned comment. So if you're interested in that, check out that video and you can get a copy for super cheap.